The Biogen Laboratories Tower was humanity's last hope. Plagued by a mysterious virus that gradually deprived all living beings of life, humans had to find a solution before becoming the last inhabitants of a desolate planet. Within the maze of laboratory corridors, Dr. Emily Smith worked day and night, searching for the key to saving the species. Emily, a talented biotechnologist, was one of the few untouched by the mysterious virus. She didn't know why she was immune, but she decided to use her skills to help humanity. Alongside her team of scientists, she constructed a special genetic probe to scour the city districts and discover the source of the virus. Dr. Emily Smith knew her past had a profound impact on who she was today. Her relationship with her father had always been turbulent. As a renowned geneticist, her father devoted most of his time to work, paying little attention to his family. This led to severe communication problems between them, and their relationship was fraught with conflicts and misunderstandings. When Emily was just 18, a serious argument with her father reached its breaking point. It was the culmination of long-standing tensions. After another intense dispute, Emily decided to run away from home, believing that she would find her place and create her life outside her father's shadow. Unfortunately, life on her own turned out to be harder than she expected. Emily struggled with various difficulties trying to find stability in her calling. Connections were fleeting, and her sense of security constantly teetered on the brink. She longed for her family, especially her only sister Jessica. Jessica meant more to Emily than just a sister. She was her best friend and greatest support. However, their contact dwindled after Emily ran away from home. When Emily returned after a prolonged absence, she discovered that Jessica was gravely ill. It was a true tragedy for her. Doctors diagnosed Jessica with a rare and incurable genetic disease. Emily realized that as a biotechnologist, she might have a chance to find a cure for her sister. She decided to use her skills to fight for Jessica's life. For long months of relentless research, testing, and experimenting, Emily worked towards finding the right cure. Unfortunately, her efforts proved futile, and Jessica passed away before any significant progress in treating the disease could be achieved. The death of her sister was a traumatic experience for Emily, but it also became a motivation to continue her work as a biotechnologist. She wanted to ensure that no one else had to experience the pain of loss like she did. She was determined to dedicate her life to research and create innovative solutions in biotechnology to help fight incurable diseases and counter threats to human life. Finally, Dr. Emily Smith found her calling as a scientist. Not only did she work on finding the last genetic code, but she also invested her efforts in developing innovative gene therapies and drugs that could change the fate of many ill people worldwide. For her, every day was like fulfilling a mission to honor her beloved sister's memory and to help humanity find hope and healing. When the probe returned, they made a horrifying discovery. The virus was not natural. It was engineered to slowly and ruthlessly wipe out life on Earth. But the probe also revealed a clue to uncover the last genetic code that could stop the destructive onslaught. Emily, full of determination, began working on uncovering the last genetic code. However, the path to success was filled with obstacles. As she unraveled the puzzle, her research began to have increasingly personal effects. She started to notice daily recurring situations and events that seemed to guide her steps, as if someone or something was foreseeing her actions. Meanwhile, dangerous adversaries emerged. A mysterious corporation called Genesis Tech, claiming to know about the existence of the last code, sought to obtain it for their own purposes. Emily realized time was running out. She needed to complete her research before they crossed the red line. During intense searches in her laboratory, Dr. Emily Smith stumbled upon hidden documents that revealed the dark and mysterious Genesis Tech Corporation. This corporation was formed several decades ago when its founder, the ruthless technological magnate Richard Blackwood, sought absolute power over the world. In the early stages of its operation, Genesis Tech corrupted many influential politicians and entrepreneurs. Through brutal blackmail and deals, the corporation gained access to key political decisions, allowing it to conduct experiments and research without any limitations. Their actions on animals were drastic and inhumane. Genesis Tech ran laboratories where cruel genetic tests and engineering were performed on innocent beings. Modified animals were used for various purposes, from creating more potent weapons to producing mysterious resources. All this activity was hidden from the public eye, and the corporation operated in secrecy, thanks to the corrupted politicians and high-ranking officials. Richard Blackwood, the owner of Genesis Tech, was heartless and unscrupulous. His sole aim was to possess as much power and control over the world as possible. Regardless of the cost and consequences to others, he pursued his dark ambitions. The most shocking discovery that deeply affected Emily was the fact that Richard Blackwood conducted experiments even on his own daughter. He wanted to create an entity with superhuman abilities that could fulfill his dream of absolute power. Unfortunately, the experiments failed, and Blackwood's daughter died due to complicated mutations that couldn't be stopped. This revelation shook Emily to her core. She realized that Genesis Tech was far more than a mere profit-seeking corporation. It was a depraved entity whose goal was to possess power over life and death, without any scruples in pursuing its terrifying ambitions. Dr. Emily Smith knew she had to expose this secret to the world. However, understanding Genesis Tech's immense power and influence, she knew she couldn't act alone. She decided to reveal her discoveries to her team and trusted friends to face the corporation together and expose its dark deeds to society. Their fight unveiled the pre-existing machinations, and Genesis Tech was brought to light. It marked the beginning of a great battle for justice and freedom, and Emily was aware it might be a fight for life and death. On the night before the decisive test, Emily had a strange vision. She saw herself in the future, in an entirely different world where humanity survived. She was happy and fulfilled, and people lived in harmony with nature. Emily realized that she had to uncover the last genetic code to make this vision a reality. The decisive moment came. Emily input the final data into the computer. The system began analyzing the results, and she held her breath, hoping for success. After long moments of anticipation, she received the report. It was it, the last genetic code. However, at the same time, the laboratory doors were forcibly opened by armed individuals whose mission was to take away the research results. Emily knew she couldn't allow that. She wasn't sure whether these people wanted to use the code to save humanity or for their own gain. A chase ensued. Unlike them, Emily was familiar with the maze of laboratory corridors. She maneuvered skillfully, avoiding gunfire and setting traps in their path. She managed to escape Biogen laboratories, but she knew it wasn't over. Those who tried to take the results would continue to pursue her and the code. Emily decided she had to ensure that the code would be used responsibly. She chose to present her discovery to the Council of Humanity and share her findings to reach a consensus on the next course of action. When she stood before the council, she shared her vision and what she had uncovered. It initiated lengthy debates and discussions. Some people were skeptical, while others saw an opportunity for power through the last code. In the following months, after the revelation of Genesis Tech's dark past, the corporation sought to seize even greater power by attempting to corrupt the judges of the Council of Humanity. Their plans were organized and meticulous, and Richard Blackwood's wealth and influence allowed them to bribe many influential figures. The judges of the council were promised immense benefits and riches in exchange for ruling in favor of Genesis Tech's pursuit of world domination. However, Dr. Emily Smith wouldn't allow those plans to materialize. Utilizing her analytical and detective skills, she traced suspicious transactions and established contact with some of the judges who were being bribed. She knew she had to act swiftly before the Genesis Tech conspiracy was exposed. Emily confronted the members of the Council of Humanity and presented them with evidence of corruption among the judges. Her discoveries were shocking, but her compelling arguments and persuasive abilities earned the Council's trust. Members of the Council knew that if Genesis Tech gained more power, the consequences would be catastrophic for humanity. The Council members faced a dilemma because countering Genesis Tech could lead to a dangerous conflict, but Emily inspired them with her dedication and fighting spirit. Aware that she had to make a decision that would influence humanity's fate, she publicly exposed the Genesis Tech conspiracy, directing her information to the media. The reaction was immediate. Society was outraged by the corruption and betrayal of Genesis Tech, demanding action. The Council of Humanity had no other choice but to reject Genesis Tech's attempts at corruption. Ultimately, under the pressure of public opinion, the judges involved in the conspiracy were removed from their positions. Richard Blackwood, the Genesis Tech CEO, realized his plans had collapsed. However, his thirst for power was so immense that he attempted to escape abroad to avoid accountability for his crimes. Yet thanks to the efforts of an international coalition pursuing the corporation, he was soon captured and brought to trial. The trial was one of the most media-covered events in history. Emily testified against Blackwood, revealing the truth about his macabre experiments and dark plans. Richard Blackwood was found guilty of numerous crimes, including the death of his own daughter, and was sentenced to life in prison. These events eventually led to the downfall of Genesis Tech. The corporation was dissolved and its assets were confiscated. For humanity, it was a victory over dark forces that attempted to manipulate and control the world for their own gains. Thanks to the determination and courage of Dr. Emily Smith, humanity received a chance for a new beginning, free from the shadows of Genesis Tech and their treacherous actions. After many days of intense debate and countless negotiations, the Council finally made a decision. The last genetic code would be used to rebuild the world in harmony with nature, respecting the balance of ecosystems and refraining from interfering with the fundamentals of life. With this discovery, humanity had a chance at survival. The last genetic code was used to heal people and animals, restore harmony in nature, and rebuild life on Earth. Emily witnessed this transformation with tears in her eyes, knowing that the future she saw in her vision had become a reality. As Dr. Emily Smith exposed the Genesis Tech secret and testified against Richard Blackwood, she became the target of vengeance. Genesis Tech loyalists were willing to do anything to prevent her further actions. The dangerous threat became a reality when Emily realized she was being pursued by mysterious figures. She began her escape from the Genesis Tech loyalists, who aimed to eliminate her. Aware of her surroundings, Emily decided to conceal her identity and change her locations to avoid pursuit. She used her intelligence and quick thinking to evade ambushes and traps set for her. However, her earthy, fearless nature allowed her to survive. But these moments were extremely dramatic. She felt she was constantly on the brink of death. In the end, when it seemed there was no escape, Emily was lured into a perfectly prepared trap. Smugglers working for Genesis Tech found her in a secluded police station where she sought refuge. They used cunning methods to break her defenses. As she arrived, expecting the helping hands of policemen, she faced the head of the Council of Humanity, the one who symbolized justice and impartiality. However, to her horror, she discovered that this person, who was supposed to protect humanity, actually worked for Blackwood, giving him access to information and enabling manipulation of the Council. Although a police car arrived with officers, Emily realized she couldn't trust them. When they attempted to arrest her, another series of dramatic events unfolded. Emily, determined, defended herself, but the opponent's advantage was overwhelming. She got wounded, and the bribed officers fired shots, killing Emily. In the end, Genesis Tech won the battle but lost the war. Thanks to her sacrifice, humanity had a chance at survival. Emily Smith became a hero, and her legacy endured as a symbol of fighting for truth and humanity's future. While Richard Blackwood was acquitted, Emily's story was retold for centuries as a legendary reminder of courage and sacrifice in the face of dark forces.